Welcome to this new module in our series on a leader's self-management. This is the first of a two-part module examining how a leader can manage their temper. In Paul's lists of character qualities, he writes that a leader must not be violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, nor quick-tempered. A leader needs to be in control of their temper and emotional state at all times. There are numerous examples of leaders in Scripture who lost their temper, and the consequences were sometimes disastrous, as the following list portrays. Moses murdered an oppressive Egyptian in the misguided attempt to demonstrate to his people that he was a deliverer, and subsequently spent 40 years in the wilderness on the run. Later, Moses struck the rock out of angry frustration with the Israelites and forfeited entry into the promised land. Out of blind jealousy, Saul mercilessly executed the priests of Nob for innocently harboring David. Saul also angrily hurled a spear at his son Jonathan, intending to kill him, when the latter sought to explain David's absence from a feast. David was on a way to kill Nabal and would have been guilty of shedding blood out of vengeance had not Nabal's clever wife Abigail intervened and interceded. The glaring conclusion of these examples is that a leader who loses their temper will suffer consequences. How then can leaders manage their temper? Well, there is a passage in James that is rich with gems for how we can exercise self-control over our temper. My dear brothers, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. For a man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word of God planted in you, which can save you. James did not say that we should never be angry or that anger is always sin, but he does say to be slow to become angry. Paul also writes, "In your anger, do not sin." These scriptures indicate that not all anger is wrong or sinful. Neither James nor Paul forbid all anger, but anger that is sin or leads to sin. This suggests that there is a distinction between righteous anger and sinful anger. Righteous anger is an anger that is justified or defensible. There are a number of examples in Scripture of so-called righteous anger. Firstly, God himself sometimes got angry. His anger was never impulsive or erratic, but to quote Richards, righteous response to specific human failures and sin. By way of example, despite the Lord's responses to Moses' series of objections and excuses for why he couldn't be the Israelites' deliverer, Moses finally blurted out, "Oh Lord, please send someone else to do it." At this, the Lord's anger burned against Moses. God also became angry when his people unjustifiably complained against him, disobeyed him, violated his covenant, rejected him in favor of idols, or practiced injustice. Lawrence Richards wrote that God's anger is viewed as completely justified and also as of ultimate benefit to people. Compared to his favor, which lasts a lifetime, God's anger is momentary. Secondly, Jesus got angry. In John 2, we read of Jesus driving all the money changers, traders, sheep and cattle from the temple courts and overturning the tables. Zeal for his Father's house kindled his righteous anger. The temple was supposed to be a place of prayer, not a place of commercial exploitation. On another occasion recorded in Mark 3, Jesus was in the synagogue along with a man who had a shriveled hand. The Pharisees were there too, but to conspiratorially find fault with what Jesus said or did. And Jesus asked, "Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or evil, to save life or to kill?" Incriminatingly, they remained silent. Jesus then looked around at them in anger and, deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." Thirdly, in the Old Testament there were leaders who became righteously angry. Descending from Mount Sinai, Moses found the Israelites worshipping and dancing before the golden calf as an object of worship. Consequently, his anger burned, and he took immediate disciplinary and remedial action. Sometime later, poised to enter the Promised Land, the Israelites were blatantly involved in unashamed and brazen immorality with the Moabites. As punishment, a plague broke out against the people. Motivated by love for God's honour, Phinehas, Aaron's grandson, drove a spear through Zimri, an Israelite, and Cosbi, who was a Moabite, through their bodies while they were in the act of sex, and halted the judgment. He did so because it was behaviour dishonouring the name of God among his people. In addition, Jonathan was angry with his father Saul for his shameful treatment of David. Drawing application from these examples, we note that for anger to be righteous, it must be rightly motivated and rightly controlled. In the cases I've just mentioned, the motives behind their anger were love and zeal for what was right and pure, not hate or uncontrolled temper. For anger to be sinless, it must have God's honour and glory as its object, not personal vindication, pride, or revenge. It was C.S. Lewis who described righteous anger as the fluid love bleeds when you cut it. Before returning to the passage in James, there is one other distinction to draw. Even though a leader's anger may be righteous, justified, the expression of that anger must also be righteous. There can sometimes be unrighteous reactions to righteous anger. For example, when Simeon and Levi heard that their sister Dinah had been raped by Shechem, they were justifiably angry. But their actions of deceit and murder to all the men of Shechem city were condemned. As Richards points out, revenge is ruled out for the believer, not only by the principle of forgiveness, but also to leave room for God's wrath. God alone is judge. He alone has the right to repay. The feeling of anger may be justified or unjustified, but the feeling of anger is never justification for sinful actions. So, James wrote that there is such a thing as righteous anger, but what he prohibits is the thoughtless, unrestrained temper that often leads to rash, harmful, and irretrievable words or actions. Alec Motyer comments that anger and sin are never far apart. Anger is not a pure emotion. It is usually heavily impregnated with sin. Often, anger is motivated by impure motives like pride, self-importance, self-assertion, intolerance, stubbornness, revenge, or bitterness. It is almost impossible to deal with anger in a moment of high emotion, particularly if it is deep and abiding anger. So James wrote wise words about being slow to become angry. The normal order is that we lose our temper, say too much, or do the wrong thing. Then listen to God because we feel bad. But James offers a preventative alternative. Listen first, slow down, manage your temper in the coolness of thoughtful and prayerful analysis. Why? Because, wrote Motyer, an angry spirit is never an attentive or patient one. When anger comes, listening flies out. In essence, James' remedy runs, listen to the word, keep a tight rein on your tongue, slow down your anger, think before you speak or act, and endeavour to bring your anger under control before it gets out of control. Now note carefully his wording. It says, be slow to become angry. The word become angry suggests that anger can and must be controlled. Most times, the expression of anger is a choice. We choose to control or lose our temper. We choose to keep it in check or to unchain it. And we choose to what degree we become angry. For example, I was once visiting some friends who had young kids, and the kids were being vigorously told off by my friend's wife for some misdemeanor, when all of a sudden the phone rang, and like a switch being thrown, she answered calmly and in a warm, friendly tone began to engage the person on the other end. It was an instantaneous change that was astonishing to behold. It showed to me that anger can be controlled if we want to control it. Well, that's it for part one of looking at how to manage our temper. Next time we'll look at what is actually wrong with becoming angry and how biblically we can practically manage our temper. See you then. God bless.